When are you planning to leave your parents' home? It's about time you grew up.
My husband barged into my family home, shouting in anger. It's about time I grew up? That should be my line. The one who's been ignoring me is you. I don't have an ounce of love left for my husband. What's up all of a sudden, after ignoring me for so long? The next moment, my husband, his face beet red, spits out.
Since when did my wife get so cheeky? Don't get too carried away just because you're at your parents' house.
Did my husband always talk this crudely? Surprised by his harsh words, I fell silent.
You really are an idiot. Well, I'll let it slide this time. So hurry up and come home.
Despite my husband's exasperated words, I have no intention of going home. Don't you misunderstand? Our marital life is over.
What? What do you mean by that?
You haven't heard anything from your mother-in-law? Well, let me tell you. I wonder how long this overbearing attitude will last. With a defiant smile, I revealed the truth to my husband. My husband Jackson and I were married 2 years ago. We both worked as sales representatives at an electrical parts manufacturer, and we were in the same batch. We often went for drinks after work.
I feel calm when I'm with Emily.
Before we started dating, my husband would often say such things, and I felt the same way. That's probably why we were naturally drawn to each other and started dating. We didn't interfere with each other or act overly sweet, but he was someone I thought I could spend my life with. A year into our relationship, he proposed. Of course, I said yes. 3 months after the proposal, we got married, rented an apartment near our workplace, and began our life as newlyweds. We were married, but I had no intention of having children just yet, so I didn't quit my job.
I'm going out for a bit.
Again? You should help with the cleaning once in a while.
I'm stressed from work. I'll do it next time. See ya.
Ever since we got married, my husband would always go out somewhere on his days off. It's rare for him to stay home on a day off. I understand that work is tiring, but so is mine. I'm not saying he should help out on weekdays, but it wouldn't hurt to lend a hand once in a while. But I convinced myself that this is just the role of a wife. As my mother was in a similar position in my family home, and I tried not to think too much about it. It was a little sad that my husband didn't help out, but I didn't have any particular hobbies, and I didn't like going out. Perhaps due to my personality, I didn't find housework to be a chore. However, I wished he would offer to help once in a while. One of the major reasons we got married was that we didn't interfere with each other's lives. So I never pressed the issue with my husband, believing that he would eventually start helping out on his own. One night, a month later, my husband came home late, simply saying,
I'm going out for a drink.
Who were you drinking with? You were out quite late. I called out to my husband as he was taking off his shoes. However, he just glanced back at me without uttering a word. Then, ignoring me, he headed straight into the living room. Again, did something unpleasant happen at the drinking party? My husband always gets oddly quiet when he's in a bad mood. Best to let him be in times like this. That night, I decided to leave him alone in the living room and just go to bed. There's nothing more to be done once he's in this state. He would refuse to engage in any conversation whatsoever, and dealing with him would only leave me drained. By the next morning, he'd probably be back to his usual self. The following morning, as I was preparing breakfast, my husband woke up. "Good morning. Anything wrong yesterday?" I tried to strike up conversation with him as usual, but he just glanced at me and didn't say a word. He took a bottle of water from the refrigerator and left the living room without a word. His demeanor seems odd this time. Normally, his mood improves after a night's sleep. This has never happened before, and I was genuinely perplexed. Not speaking to me for 2 days? He must be in a terrible mood. I decided not to push him, and did not initiate any conversation. Let's just see how things go for a while. That was all I was thinking. However, his mood didn't change that evening, nor the next day. Should I continue to just wait and see? I was worried. I had never been ignored by him for several days before. What if we can't mend our relationship? Desperate, I tried to create opportunities to talk to my husband, but he ignored all my text messages and notes. What could be upsetting him so much? If it's something I did, he could just tell me. If he doesn't want to talk that badly, I decided to try slipping a note into the sandwich I packed for him. He eats all his meals at home and seems to be eating the lunch sandwiches I make for him. If there's a note from his wife in his lunch at work, he might react, I thought. But this strategy, too, was futile. Having run out of options, I decided to take drastic measures. I chose not to prepare dinner. When my unsuspecting husband came home from work, there was no dinner ready as usual. In this situation, he would have to say something. After looking at the table, my husband turned his gaze to me. Is he finally going to say something? I held my breath, waiting for him to speak. But my expectations were in vain, as my husband simply left the house. I was utterly shocked at this. He left without saying a word. Is marriage really this hollow? I was completely ignored by my husband and sat stunned on the living room sofa. My husband didn't come home that night, and I spent the night alone. In the morning, there was still no sign of him. Did he go to work directly? As I thought this, I found a note on the table.
Do not slack off your duties as a wife.
It was written in a nasty scrawl. How dare he? The man who won't even talk to me properly? Why is he ignoring me to this extent if he wants to be in a relationship? We haven't had a proper conversation in a month. The moment I saw the note, a surge of anger towards my husband erupted within me. I can't deal with this anymore. I can't bear it anymore. I'm going back to my parents' house. There's no point in living together if he doesn't even want to talk. It's suffocating. I'll leave. Leaving those words beside my husband's scribbled note, I decided to return to my parents' home. After an hour's journey from the apartment where I had been living with my husband, I finally arrived at my parents' house.
Emily, what in the world happened?
The parents who welcomed me home were obviously shocked. Understandably so. Their daughter had unexpectedly come home. When I explained to my surprised parents that my husband had been ignoring me, they welcomed me in without saying a word.
Emily, you must have been having a tough time. Stay here until you feel better.
Their kind words meant the world to me. I was also deeply relieved to be in an environment where I could talk about my situation. Thank you. I think I'll watch how things go with my husband from here for a while. I expressed my gratitude to my parents and decided to observe my husband's behavior from afar. On the day I returned home, predictably, I received no communication from my husband. Normally, you'd expect a husband to at least call when his wife says she's going back to her parents' house. Well, whatever. Until he reaches out, there's no way I'm going back or making contact. I swore to myself, but even after several days, there was still no word from my husband. No calls, not even an SMS. And of course, he never showed up at my family's home. If he's going to completely cut me off, then two can play at that game. Initially, I was quite stubborn about it, but as the days with no contact from my husband dragged on, I eventually stopped caring about him. Before I knew it, half a year had passed since I returned home. One day, as I was about to head out shopping and opened the front door of my parents' house, my husband was standing there, looking like he was ready for battle. Why are you here? Having completely forgotten about my husband, I unintentionally let out a voice. He must have come because he wants to say something. I wonder what he'll say. I braced myself as I looked at my husband standing rigidly, but all he did was glare at me in silence. Oh, so he's still playing this ridiculous silent game. Then I have nothing to say to him, and I wish he'd go home. With that in mind, I tried to leave for the store, ignoring him. But without saying a word, he tried to enter the house. Wait! What are you doing? Stop! I hurriedly tried to stop him, but he just looked at me as if he couldn't understand why I was trying to stop him. Don't just barge into someone's house. I'll call the police, I blurted out at my husband. Seeing me react like this, my husband smirked.
You've become quite cheeky for a wife.
My husband's voice, which I hadn't heard in a long time, was low and cold. What do you mean, cheeky? You're the one who's been ignoring me all this time. I'm not pleased with you suddenly showing up.
Huh? Since when did you get so high and mighty? Don't let staying at your parents' house go to your head.
Wait, did he always talk this rudely? Getting above my head? Me? I never thought I'd be accused of that. As I fell silent under my husband's pressure, he kept on ranting.
Don't mess around. You've left our home empty for half a year. You're not doing anything yourself, and you're just relaxing at your parents' house. Well?
No, hold on. Why do I have to be scolded like this? After all, it was him who started ignoring me. Though I had been taking his one-sided accusations, I started to feel a surge of anger towards my husband. All right, I've got something to say too. Why should I take the blame? This whole thing started because you decided to ignore me, you know?
Huh? Why are you so mad? Calm down, okay? I'm willing to forgive you now. Just come back home.
My husband uttered with an air of superiority, completely unfazed. How can he act so high and mighty? Hearing this, I retorted, Forgive me? I don't need your forgiveness. To me, you're nothing more than a stranger now. At this, he looked utterly bewildered.
Huh? A stranger? What are you talking about?
Don't make me repeat myself. I meant what I said. He exploded in anger, his face reddening once again.
Stop talking nonsense. You've been living leisurely at your parents' place for 6 months. Has it made you lose your mind? We're married, aren't we?
If we're married, why didn't you bother to talk things out? You ignored me because you had issues with me, didn't you?
Don't make assumptions. I never said any such thing. Pack your things now. We're going home.
Ugh, I've reached my limit. Why do I have to put up with this man's nonsense? He's so clueless about what's happened during these 6 months. Poor guy. Maybe it's time to show him the reality. You're shouting and yelling, but do you know anything at all?
What do you mean, anything?
Did you hear nothing from your mother?
I didn't hear anything. What are you talking about?
Really? You don't know a thing, huh? Let me enlighten you. Your mother brought over the divorce papers. They had your signature. And since I no longer wanted to be with you either, I signed them too. A month after I moved back into my parents' house, I received a call from his mother. She asked me to meet her at a nearby cafe. There, she had handed me a set of divorce papers, bearing my husband's signature. What does this mean? What does it mean? I heard from Jackson that you haven't come home and you're not even communicating properly anymore. Her eyes bore the same cold look my husband usually gave me. So, Jackson asked you to give me these divorce papers. Oh, yes, he did. A surge of joy filled me. I was free from my husband. Thinking about it gave me such a sense of relief. Understood. Then I'll sign the papers for the divorce. The moment I received the divorce papers, signed by both me and my husband, I immediately filed them at the family court. So, there you have it. Do you understand? We are no longer in a marital relationship. When I made it clear to my ex-husband that we were divorced, he lost all his energy and started panicking. His face turned pale, and he was breaking out in a cold sweat.
No, that's not what it is. I gave the papers to reassure my mother.
A mother who would be reassured by receiving divorce papers? I was dumbfounded by my ex-husband's response. So?
I didn't intend to file those divorce papers. They're invalid.
If he had no intention of filing them, why did he sign them? Furthermore, once they've been submitted to the family court, they can't be easily invalidated. Just so you know, I've already filed the papers at the family court. They can't be invalidated now, okay?
You think just apologizing to the family court will take care of everything, huh? I'm willing to do it with you. You realize it'll be a real hassle if we go through with the divorce, right?
Just how much does this guy enjoy toying with people? Does he think I'll be at a loss if we divorce? That's ridiculous. I won't have any problems, actually.
No, you will. We're not exactly young, are we? Who'd want someone our age who's divorced? That's why I'm saying we can just ignore this whole divorce thing. You should listen to me. It's a good thing, right?
Even now, my ex-husband still talks like this. Can this man do anything else besides putting on airs? Why did I ever marry this guy? I thought to myself, exasperated at my husband's words. You know what? You're only thinking about yourself. We can't just pretend the divorce didn't happen. And I won't have any issues even if I split from you. Plus, I already have someone else. It seemed like my ex-husband didn't quite understand what I was saying. He fell silent, saying nothing. You don't seem to understand, so I'll say it again. I'm seeing someone else, and it's not you. This time, he seemed to understand. My ex-husband suddenly started making a fuss.
What do you mean? Huh? You're lying. You're just saying that because you don't want to come home.
It's not a lie. It's the truth.
No way, you're making a fool out of me. I won't forgive you.
He can't refuse to forgive me. He can refuse to forgive all he wants. It's still the truth. I wondered how I could make him believe it. As I was puzzling over this, I felt a presence behind me.
Are you okay? I heard raised voices. What's going on?
The one standing behind me was my boyfriend. I'm okay. I'm sorry for worrying you.
That's all right, but you said you were going shopping, and you've been standing here for a while. I wondered what was up.
My ex-husband looked up at my boyfriend, who had just come out of my parents' house. That's understandable. My boyfriend is a recent hire in field work at the same company where my ex-husband and I work. Because of that, he doesn't know much about my ex-husband. He's quite tall and solidly built, having played rugby for a long time.
Emily, who is this guy? Do you know him?
Oh, him? That's my ex-husband. While my boyfriend and I were talking, my ex-husband couldn't utter a single word. He seemed to be intimidated by the sheer difference in physical stature.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
My ex-husband was so overwhelmed by my boyfriend's greeting that he started to step back.
And what exactly does your ex-husband want? He's not bothering you, is he, Emily?
My boyfriend questioned my ex-husband with a piercing look. Perhaps sensing that he was at a disadvantage, my ex-husband responded,
No, I'm not doing anything.
With that, he tried to leave my parents' house. If you come here again, I won't hesitate to call the police. I firmly pushed my ex-husband out the front door and closed it behind him. He was so scared of my boyfriend, I doubt he'll come again. Since then, just as I expected, my ex-husband hasn't shown up at my parents' house. In the end, his own selfishness and neglect led to an irreversible situation. And to top it all off, he even signed the divorce papers I had given to my mother-in-law. To think that he would actually go through with the divorce. There's no other word for him but stupid. This is all his own doing. A week later.
Hey, have you heard anything from your ex-husband recently?
Huh? Oh, I had completely forgotten about him until you mentioned it. Had my boyfriend not brought him up, I probably wouldn't have even remembered him. I hadn't heard from him, but now that it was mentioned, I was a little curious. I decided to call a mutual friend and check up on my ex. Hey, how's Jackson doing? I haven't seen him at work recently. Well, he hasn't been doing so well since the divorce. He's really lost his spark. Really? I would have thought he'd be just fine. Actually, it seems like he quit his job 3 days ago. Upon hearing this, I was genuinely surprised. That was right after he had showed up at my parents' house, and nobody told me he had quit his job. Wait, why would he do that so suddenly? I don't know if it was because of the divorce, but he suddenly lost all motivation. He told the company that he's quitting to take care of his mother, but he asked them not to tell many people about it because he doesn't want to worry them. In reality, that's a lie, and he's been lazing around drinking every day. Oh, I see. Thanks for letting me know. With that, I ended the call. I had no idea my ex-husband was dealing with so much. Well, it's his fault, so I guess it doesn't really matter. As a newly divorced woman, I can't marry my current boyfriend right away. But if things keep going well, we plan to register our marriage next year. I hope to build a happy family this time with proper communication.